In this next set of lessons, we're going to talk about how to learn guitar. We're going to talk about the learning process itself, how it actually works when your body and your brain are learning these brand new skills. The reason this is important to understand is because the more you understand it, the more you can really make the best use of all the resources you have in terms of your mind and your body and the lessons that we're doing to learn as quickly and efficiently as possible. So in this set of lessons, we're going to look at all kinds of things about how to learn better, how to practice better, and how to get to be a better guitar player as quickly as possible. So essentially what we're doing when we're learning guitar is teaching two essential systems in ourselves. One of those systems is the mind itself. We are learning to understand new concepts. We are learning to memorize names of things and understand how and why things work and how we're going to use that understanding to create music on the guitar. The second system that we're working with is called physical memory. It's where your body is actually learning sequences of moves, sequences of events, angles, pressures, all these kinds of things that your body actually physically memorizes. It's very different from memorizing in your mind. Interestingly, as adults learning to play the guitar, one thing that is often a kind of a discomfort zone is that we're not really used to not being good at things. When you're a kid and you're learning to do new things, the world is new to you. And so you're used to saying, well, yeah, sure, I've never made a teapot out of clay, but I'm willing to give it a try. Here, as adults, we're used to doing things that we have gotten good at. So it can be very frustrating to find yourself taking on this new physical skill that feels awkward and feels like you just can't get your fingers to behave the way you want them to. Rest assured that if you're feeling any of that kind of frustration, every other adult beginner guitar player is feeling the same way. So there's nothing wrong with it, nothing wrong with you. It's perfectly natural, and you will get over it. Let me tell you a quick personal story. This spring, I bought myself a little scooter, kind of like a Vespa, to go around town on. And in the beginning, it felt incredibly awkward and a little scary. It's a heavy bike, it's 250 pounds. And I'm on there with my two hands, and I'm supposed to remember, you know, where's the brake, where's the horn, where's the blinker, and where's the throttle, and how much pressure do I put on it? And meanwhile, kind of lurching down the street and making a fool of myself. Well, after a while, that initial discomfort with, oh my gosh, there's so many moves to remember here, begins to get more and more familiar and more automatic, to the point where I can get on and take a ride now really comfortably. It doesn't take that long to learn a new set of moves. So if you're feeling frustrated in the beginning, don't worry, your hands and your body will learn this. And we'll talk more about how that physical memory works further on in this lesson and in this series. So, I hope it doesn't come as a big surprise to you that you will not learn to play the guitar just by sitting and watching these videos. You have to understand that there is a lot more to the learning process and a lot more that you have to bring to the table as a student in order for your learning to succeed. And what I want to talk about here is the various ways that you as a human being take in new information. So part of it is watching the video. And what you're doing when you're watching the video is two things. You're hearing me explain things and show you how they work, but you're also seeing my hands, my arms, my shoulder, my posture. You're seeing my body interact with the guitar. So watching the video is hitting two of your learning systems. It's getting into your mind, you're learning to understand new things, and it's getting into your body. The way the body works is that frequently your body watching mine, your hands watching mine, your hands will be naturally inclined to imitate the movements they see. So make sure that you're watching carefully, because it's a very natural thing that your hand sees the way my hand goes and it automatically goes there. Let's try a little experiment. Put your hand up like this and against mine near the screen and just follow me. Okay, so I didn't tell you anything to do, but your hand just mimicked me. So that is how it also works when watching my left hand moves, when watching my right hand moves. Your fingers are actually learning just by observing someone else's fingers who have more experience. So the other thing we have going on when you're actually interacting with the videos is that you are listening. And you're not just listening to me talk about how to do this and how to do that and what this means and what that means, but you're listening to the sound of the music. Now this is training your ear. And we talked about this back in the lessons on tuning, for instance, where your ear is actually learning to discern, wow, do those notes sound right together, or do they sound weird and they sound off? And if they do sound off, I'm probably doing something wrong that needs to be fixed. So pay attention to the listening aspect of the learning process as you're doing these videos, listening to the sound of the music, making sure that your music sounds pretty much as best you can like mine, and of course listening to the explanations. A third, and probably the very most important way that you're going to facilitate your learning process on the guitar is actually actively doing it, actively playing the guitar, making your hands interact, your body interact with this instrument. So that's really important to follow along with me on the lessons, not just watching, but doing what I do as I do it, trying to imitate what I'm doing and trying to get it to sound like I'm making it sound. And then also, even more important, of course, is in the play-alongs, and even more important than that is in your practice time. It's by actually playing the guitar, physically practicing the moves and concepts that you're learning, that you will learn much faster. Later on in this tutorial, we'll talk a lot more about practice, how to really get the most out of it, how to structure your practice time, what to do with that time for the best results. But just keep in mind that in order to learn the guitar, you must actively be playing it as much as you can. Another really important process that's going on when you're maximizing your learning process on the guitar is, believe it or not, making mistakes. Mistakes are golden because that is where you learn how not to do it, as opposed to sort of doing it wrong and not noticing it. If you make a mistake and notice it, that's fantastic. I mean, think of how many times in your life you might have said, oh boy, did I learn my lesson on that one and I'm never going to do that again. Well, if you hadn't made some big mistake, you wouldn't have learned that great lesson and you wouldn't know that you're never going to do that again. So with guitar, when you make a mistake, when you play a note that's not right, it's not an opportunity just to criticize yourself or to get discouraged. It's an opportunity to say, aha, okay, I need to learn how to do this differently. Why does that note sound wrong? Well, my finger's not placed in a good place in the fret. I'm not pushing down hard enough. I'm not using the right finger. I'm teaching you all these ways of self-evaluating so that when you make mistakes, you can also learn to correct them. And that's when you really learn how to do it and how to never do that other thing again. So the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to maximizing your learning process is an idea called reframing, which means that you take something that you've learned and you restate it in your own language or even just in your own imagination. For instance, I encourage you during the lessons to be taking notes. And that's a way of reframing. That's a way of saying, okay, on the video, I saw this, this, and this explanation. and I tried this, this, and this. Now I'm going to write down in my own language, in my notes, what I need to remember about that to do my best with it. Okay, so that way you're processing the information in a new way. You're being proactive with it. Another way to reframe the information is to teach someone else what you learned. Teach someone else how to play the simple G chord. Show them which finger to use. Show them which strings to avoid. Teach them what you've learned about something, even if it's very simple. And if you can't find anyone who will tolerate a guitar lesson from you, pretend you're teaching someone. Think about, how would I teach this? And in that way, you are reframing, you are restating the learning that you have already taken in yourself, and it just absolutely supercharges your absorption of that information. And a final, a little bit woo-woo way of reframing is actually to just think about the stuff. And that's when your guitar is not in your hand. Maybe you're driving, maybe you're hanging out on the couch, and you think, how do you make that simple G chord again? Let me see if I can just remember it in my mind. And that actually really helps solidify the learning as well. Okay, so to wrap this long discussion on the learning process up, let's just quickly review and say that you are watching. And by watching, you are training both your brain and your body by imitation. You are listening. By listening, you are taking in new information, and you're training your ear to discern elements of music that are going to be really important for you to understand. You are doing. You are physically making your body do the things that we are learning to do so that you memorize how to do them well. You are making mistakes. I hope you are making mistakes and figuring out how to fix them, and that's where the real learning comes in there. And you are reframing. You are making your notes. You are teaching it to someone else or pretending you're teaching it to someone else. Keep these in mind as you go through these lessons, and you're going to get way more out of them and learn much more quickly. In the next lesson, we'll talk about how to practice the guitar.